Hey everybody, I'm Michigan J. You need to study art history, and I'm going to show you why, right here, on Alternative Placement Art History. Now, art history is the greatest of all the subjects, but unfortunately and ironically, it suffers from a bit of an image problem. So I want to address first some of the things that seem to prevent people from studying it. So lots of people that I've talked to say something like, I'm just not an art person, as if it's some sort of genetic condition where you either have the art gene or you don't. There's no such thing as an art person. Everybody's an art person because art is how humans have communicated for tens of thousands of years. It's an inescapable part of our nature. But still, for some reason, when people think of art or art history, they get this image of a snooty, snobby, pretentious, wine-sniffing elitist who wears dope jackets and funky art history socks. Or someone who's just got their 38th piercing, hates you and your suburban lifestyle, and does needle drugs. They use words like rectilinear and juxtaposition, and lean back from all white canvases, saying ridiculous things like, I see man's inhumanity to man, but I don't feel man's inhumanity to man. These people are intimidating and make you feel stupid or inferior because you don't understand why those canvases are all white and you just don't like it.
All right, so no doubt these people exist, but you don't have to be one of them to enjoy art history. Interest in a subject matter does not have to define you as an individual, so don't worry if you don't fit in with some preconceived notion of an art person. Plus, studying art history doesn't mean you suddenly have to like everything. You don't have to like anything. You don't have to like any work of art or artist, even if they were hugely influential and groundbreaking. I don't particularly like Paul Gauguin, even though he's typically considered one of the foundational artists of the late 19th century, hugely influential for a lot of 20th century artists. His paintings don't particularly light my fire, and honestly, he was a total But I can appreciate that many of the great artists of the 20th century were inspired by his work. In the end, you're going to like what you like, and that's fine, no matter what she thinks. Next, one of the most difficult barriers to enjoying art and art history is that it seems a lot of artists today are getting super famous and super wealthy for doing practically nothing, which makes the whole industry seem like a get-rich-quick scheme perpetuated by those pretentious elitist junkies we were just talking about. When works of art are being auctioned off for tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, it's hard not to feel like somebody's getting away with something. And it's easy to decide that the whole system must be a scam. But here's the thing. We need to separate art from the art market. The art market assigns a monetary value to works of art based on a whole bunch of different factors other than the way it looks, the message behind it, the context in which it was produced. The fact that some billionaire wants to drop a cool 100 mil on a painting may have nothing to do with the way it looks or how it makes you feel. In all likelihood, they're buying it as an investment and don't care at all about its artistic merits. My advice, ignore the price tag. Focus on the work of art itself. Now, if you are super skeptical of art, artists, and the art world in general, you're not alone, even within the art world. One of the biggest artists today is the street artist Banksy, who takes very critical shots at the art world through his unique works that he puts up in public, for public consumption, for free, very much outside of the art market. Now, the irony here is that when his works go up, there's typically this mad scramble as people rush to take them and then get rich selling them. But this actually serves to highlight my point. Banksy's images and the messages that they convey are in no way reliant upon someone paying millions of dollars for them. They stand on their own, apart from any monetary transaction. And that's how we need to approach art in general, avoiding the price tags and focusing instead on the form, function, content, and context. But what about those works of art that don't seem to require much artistic talent? Some of these things look like they took about 2 seconds to make, and we're supposed to think they're so amazing. It almost seems like you take a crap in a can, and you can call it art. Oh wait, somebody already did that. Seriously. But honestly, a lot of modern and contemporary art looks pretty basic, which leads us to the biggest issue people have with art, the I could do that fallacy. I'm going to tackle this problem in greater detail in a later episode, but here's the quick response to I could do that. 1. You probably couldn't. Manipulating materials like paint and stone and metal is harder than you think. 2. Maybe you could, but you didn't. The time period and events surrounding a work of art help to create meaning in that piece. So even if you could replicate it physically, you can't replicate the context. Just because you can play Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit doesn't make you Kurt Cobain. 3. Go ahead and do it. Go make some art and join the conversation. But a lot of people are still going to keep walking when they see this stuff. That's where I come in. Talked a lot about the misconceptions about art history. Now I want to talk about the benefits. One of the most obvious benefits is that you're going to learn the stories behind these works of art and have a greater appreciation for them. Remember what I said earlier, though. You don't have to like it, but you will at least appreciate where the artist was coming from. The hidden benefit here is more important, though. By studying these weird works of art and the stories behind them, you begin to look more carefully and critically at all different kinds of things in your life. You'll find yourself less likely to rush to judgment about what you see, less likely to take things at face value, and more willing to seek to understand things that you would typically dismiss as stupid or boring or ugly. Learning to appreciate something without liking it can help us navigate all kinds of different situations in which we're presented with ideas we may disagree with. If we can seek to understand rather than simply dismiss or demonize, we're more likely to make meaningful progress wherever we are. When I would try to convince students to take my AP Art History class, I would often hear the same question. When am I going to use that? Now, every teacher has heard this question at least once in their career. The problem is the question is flawed. It reduces education to a basic input of information, as if students are machines that get uploaded with information that they then spit out later in life during their career. Education doesn't work like that. For employers today, it's more and more about what you can do rather than what you know. So it's the skills that you acquire during your academic career that are the important thing. It's true, you're not going to need to know that Leonardo finished The Last Supper in 1498, or that Louis Sullivan's core philosophy was form ever follows function, or that the Bunda mask is the only mask in Africa danced by women. But the skills that you learn while studying art history are translatable to any other profession. There's a very good reason why medical schools like Harvard and Yale now require art history as part of their programming. Attention to detail.
It's red.
Critical analysis.
That sucks. That sucks. That sucks. That sucks. That sucks.
Creative problem solving.
Now no one gets to play with it!
Descriptive vocabulary.
Still red.
Cultural and religious sensitivities. These are all skills that are translatable to any other profession, like medicine or law or teaching or engineering or finance or chemistry or management or marketing. It's not just for future artists or curators. Plus, having a different skill set than your classmates and colleagues and competitors will enable you to innovate and bring something special to the table. We live in a world that's increasingly connected. Contacting people from different cultures, nationalities, and religions is increasingly common in the classroom, workplace, everywhere. Studying art history is one of the best ways to experience other cultures and can give you at least a basic understanding of a lot of different religions and cultural backgrounds. This can allow you to make more meaningful connections with other people at home and abroad. You'll be a more informed traveler, a more enlightened student, and a more successful professional. Finally, we are inundated by images. On the television, walking down the street, and especially online, where for better or for worse, more and more of our lives are taking place. Having a framework to interpret these images and a vocabulary to respond to them is essential. Studying art history will enable you to see through a lot of it and realize what's actually important. You'll recognize propaganda when you see it. You'll know when you're being manipulated by an advertiser because you'll recognize the work of art that they're using and know that it means something completely different. You'll see those perfect pics on Instagram and no longer feel bad because you'll know that standards for beauty have always differed across cultures, and even now are constantly changing, and that no one's an ideally beautiful human being, except for Beyonce. And so, art history will help you in your academic and professional life. But no matter what profession you have, you will be more than just your job. You will have a life outside your job, and art history can help you there as well. I never studied art history until I was asked to teach it. So I started studying when I was about 30. It was nothing short of a transformative experience. It changed the way I saw the world. Buildings weren't just buildings anymore. They were architecture, some that I liked, some that I don't. But I found that I had a new vocabulary for describing what I was seeing, a new way of expressing myself. Studying art history has a way of opening your eyes to colors and shapes and shading and perspective, not just in images, but in everyday life. You will see the world differently. You will take less for granted and find yourself appreciating everything else much, much more. Now, I know what you're thinking. Michigan J, AP Art History sounds really hard.
Sack up.
My school doesn't offer art history.
Not with that kind of attitude.
I don't have room in my schedule.
Quit English.
I'm not in school anymore.
Quit your job.
I don't have the internet.
How are you watching this?
You're just too handsome.
Yeah, you're right.
You frighten my children.
I frighten my own children.
But actually, I'm going to teach you art history. We'll be loosely following the AP Art History curriculum, which I taught for 7 years, but we're going to look at a whole bunch of different stuff, go on some weird tangents, and generally have a little more fun than a normal AP class. So I'm calling this alternative placement art history. Before you know it, you'll be using words like juxtaposition and rectilinear, wearing funky socks, making fun of those people who can't pronounce words like Basquiat, Hagia Sophia, Yaks chillin', and looking down at those peasants who can't tell a Vermeer from a Velasquez, because that's what art history is really about. I was lying earlier. You'll be better than others. Sorry about that. All seriousness aside, this is going to be super fun. Art history changed my life, and I'm excited to share it with you.